would want to say to the parents, first of all, keep motivating your children. Please never tell your child, no, don't think of studying that you're not good enough, because you don't know whether your child is good enough or not. And I tend to believe that everyone is capable if they put their minds to it.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another STEAMIgram session. Yes, I'm still Amanda, and we are continuing with our theme of women making a difference. And today's woman is one of my personal faves. She's so passionate about chemistry and so passionate about science and what she does, and telling everybody else about it and encouraging people to do it, that it kind of inspired me to want to do the same, you know. And obviously I'm talking about none other than Dr. Rehana Malgas-Enus. She is a lecturer at Stellenbosch University, and she's also a researcher in nanotechnology. I'm not going to waste time. Let's bring her on and we'll carry on the conversation. You look gorgeous.
Hey, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
I'm so happy that you're joining us today. I'm so excited.
I'm too. I was thinking, Stiki, what did I get myself into? You know, you like to just drag me out of my comfort zone and make me do things that I'm so awkward about, but okay. We are here, we're doing it, you know, we've got a good relationship, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know how the comfort zone works. Nothing grows there, you know? And this is an opportunity for you.
Yes, it is.
Let's get into this conversation. So obviously we are talking about women in science making a difference. And when I think of that, literally one of the women that come to mind because of everything you've accomplished so far and everything that you're doing right now in, you know, with school children and all of these things. I can tell that it's a passion of yours. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit more about your career in STEM and, you know, what that entails.
Okay, it's great that you asked me that, because people sometimes find out, you know, you have a PhD in chemistry and they don't really know what you can do with a PhD in chemistry. But basically, I'm an academic at Stellenbosch University, and my job, the main focus or the main reason why I became an academic was because I wanted to do research. So my job entails doing some research and also lecturing, and of course, we also do some outreach.
Okay, and also, why are you so passionate about, you know, chemistry and wanting to have done that?
Well, chemistry obviously is amazing. All my students, if you find them, they will tell you that I always say life revolves around chemistry. Basically, for instance, if I take my research, what I do is I design and study nanoparticle formation. So nanoparticles, the property of nanoparticles, how to make any type of nanoparticle. And the reason why I do that is because if we can figure out, you know, how to design a particular nanoparticle, then we can use it for any application. So currently we use ours to treat wastewater. We use it for catalysis, and very excitingly, we actually use it for resistant TB treatment, for anti-cancer treatment, and for coagulated blood clotting. So, you know, with chemistry, basically, anything is possible, and this is the exciting part of it.
All right, but you're saying nanoparticles, all right?
Yes.
You briefly, but don't get too scientific about this, but can you briefly tell us a little bit more about nanoparticles and why that is such an interesting thing? Because we've heard about nanotechnology, but I don't think we've actually gotten to realize what it's about and what are the potentials of it.
So to make it very simple, a nanoparticle is a species or compound or particle which is 1 × 10⁻⁹ meters small in diameter. So it's very, very, very small, but the beauty of it is once it's that small, it can do amazing things. It's very active, it has antimicrobial activities, and this is why we study nanoparticles. So basically, nanotechnology would be you are studying nanoparticles and you are using nanoparticles to enhance the quality of life, basically.
Wow. Okay, that sounds really interesting. I think that's so interesting. And then moving on to some of the things that you're doing, because you said you're obviously an academic and you're involved in teaching or lecturing, you know, they're involved in research and outreach. Let's move over to the outreach part of things. Sunkoi. Tell us a little bit more about Sunkoi.
So, I mean, your talk today was about women in science and women making a difference. So, to put it into context, Sunkoi is one of my outreach programs. And Sunkoi basically stands for the Stellenbosch University Chemistry Outreach Initiative. And what we do is we invite high school learners who don't have labs. Look, if you are in grade 10, 11, or grade 12, and you are doing physical sciences, then you would need to do chemistry pracs. Unfortunately, many of our schools don't have labs, they don't have resources. So we try to host some of those schools and we invite the students to do the practicals in our chemistry labs. Of course, we can't reach all the schools we want to because we have university pracs. We've got, university students also having to do their pracs. So what we do is we actually invite teachers as well, and we train our teachers, and we created chemistry kits actually, so that any teacher in any school can do the prescribed experiments in their classroom. So that's how we reached a wider audience. So that is in a nutshell what Sunkoi is about.
And why was there a need for Sunkoi, or why did you feel you needed to initiate such a project?
Well, of course, you have to think about where you're coming from. If we come from a background where we didn't have all those resources or we struggled. So I come from a school which we didn't have chemistry labs and we never did a chemistry prac. And the first time I did a chemistry prac was when I got to university and I fell in love with chemistry. I don't know if you can tell that, but I did.
Oh, no, we can't tell. We have no idea that you love chemistry.
You can't see chemistry on my face. And so the idea was when I realized that, these grade 10, 11, 12 students actually have to do these prescribed practicals. I asked myself, but how? If you are examined on it, if you need to learn from it, you have to understand the theory better. That's the purpose of practicals. Then we have to work on that. So I felt there was like an opening to do outreach, which will make a difference. You don't just do outreach for the sake of doing outreach. We can actually help, our fellow learners, the education department. So that is how that came about. So it's basically because I'm coming from that background. I know the struggle, and I wanted our future to have better opportunities.
Wow. That's actually so beautiful, because you coming from such a space, you know the struggles, you know how difficult it was, and you're in a more privileged position, you want to give back and pay it forward and be like, I don't want another child to have to go through what I went through. And that's just admirable. And you mentioned something about science kits, right? So these science kits, are they given to every school in the Western Cape or in South Africa? Is there specific criteria that you follow? How exactly does the science kits work?
So I just designed the science kits because there was a need for that. When we had our teachers' workshops, the teachers said they struggled to come up with a budget. Like, let's say if you do the intermolecular forces practical, there's so many solvents and chemicals that you need for that practical. So it's not feasible for a school which don't have the resources to buy 2.5 liters of each solvent or to buy 100 grams of each chemical. So what we did was we created a kit where you only have small amounts. You have only 50 moles of solvent. You only have 1 gram of the chemicals. This makes the kits so much cheaper, and the school can then afford to buy these kits like for 300 Rand, and they can literally do the experiment in the classroom with the children. So we don't sell the kits. The kits are directly available from the company who produces it. It's just that I'm the one who designed it and liaised with the company and told them this is what you need in the kit. And it's done very well. We have grade 10, 11, and 12 chemistry kits. And we also have a natural sciences kit, which is for grade 7 to 9, yes. And then we have a primary school kit. Super cute, super exciting. We want to get kids excited about science at a young age. So this kit has a lot of household items, things that you find in your kitchen. But there's literally 8 experiments that kids can do at home. So it's super safe, it's exciting, and it gets them excited about science. So that is what we do with the kids. But there are SBA, they sponsor us, and every year we go to a remote or rural area like Luhamka or Matsikama. We were going to go to Plet this year, Kranshoek actually is the area. Of course we couldn't. But what we do is we go and have teachers workshops. So we invite teachers from 20 schools in the area. We go there with everything. We set up a lab over there. And once we've trained them, SBA actually sponsors a kit. This is another bigger kit with 10 experiments in to each of those schools. So that's a very nice thing.
That's beautiful. That's wow. Okay, you're doing a lot, but that's great. And we see that, and we are so happy when we have scientists who are making the initiative to make sure that, or at least to try, that we have scientists for the future as well by doing such small things, especially because science is such a practical discipline, and when sometimes you can't really always have it as an abstract concept. You need to see it here practically, so you can see that, so that's where so all of those reactions and this plus this,
yes, has to click.
It has to click.
Exactly.
So it's just like, okay, I get it. But I've been following you obviously and all the work that you've been doing, and I see that you've started a new initiative, LabMate. Tell us about LabMate.
Yes.
Yeah.
LabMate is so amazing. Well, the name says it all. So as I told you, we actually invite, the grade 12s and then the grade 11s to our labs to do their practicals that they need to complete for the year. We couldn't do it this year because of lockdown and the pandemic. We found out that the matrics will still write the exams as is because it's already been set. So you can think it's very difficult. They have to do, for instance, a titrations practical. It will be difficult for them to be able to answer questions about titrations or the glassware if they haven't actually done the practical. So my team and I, they are pretty awesome people. We started recording the experiments in our lab. We went in, we scripted everything, we recorded it, but we recorded it as if we are the lab mate. So let's say I'm doing the experiment. It will be you are watching now on your phone at home. You and I are lab mates, but it's like I'm doing the experiment and you watching what I'm doing. I don't give any answers. We just show the data, show the glassware. Then they actually have a prac book where they need to fill in the answers and they need to come to their own conclusions so that they still learn. We're not just giving them answers. So we've done that for the grade 12 and the grade 11 practicals this year.
Wow. And where is this available?
Yes.
How do they get these videos?
Yes, there's a YouTube link which I can give to you later, which you can post, where you can see all the videos. But also you can email me for the smaller WhatsApp size videos, because the idea was not everyone has internet access. Not everyone can go on YouTube on your computer and watch these things. So we made the videos small enough so that the teacher would be able to send it via WhatsApp to the students, and they will be able to look at the experiments and do the practical themselves. So they can either email me to get these WhatsApp videos, or we can send the link for the higher resolution YouTube videos.
Wow, so you're sending it via WhatsApp?
We are, because I thought about it and I thought, how will we get this to even those students who don't have all the resources? And at least if as a student you don't have a phone and WhatsApp, your parent should have a phone and WhatsApp. The kids who go to school, teachers try to send them things, via Google, etc., etc. So it's a similar thing like that. So it was a struggle, and I learned a whole lot of new techniques, because I'm a scientist, but I had to learn how to edit these videos, how to make it small enough. So we sent it to all the teachers in the Western Cape, well, at least in the Metropolitan South District and the Cape Winelands districts, and they send it to the teachers, and then the teachers can send it to their students. Also, we have it on YouTube, and we've even had teachers as far as Kenya saying, this is amazing, and they are actually going to use it with their assessments as well.
I can tell that you are passionate about making a difference. I can see that in everything that you've said. You seem very passionate about it, but let's go into more detail in terms of why you are so passionate about making a difference.
Well, as I said before, it is related to my background and where I come from. Some people won't understand, why I really want to do what I do. I know why. I know if we could even change the life of one person, then, we've done a good thing. So this is, my motivation for doing that. But, I have to also be careful to juggle my research with my outreach and my lecturing. It is quite hectic. So therefore, I spend most of my time after hours on my outreach activities. But, it is a lot of work, but the feedback that we get is priceless, and it makes it worth the effort.
Yeah. You're saying something about that challenge of juggling those three aspects of being an academic. So what other challenges have you had to overcome as a female scientist and just as an academic in general?
So, there's not as many female scientists as we want there to be. And I don't know what the reason for that is. I think people have this idea of what scientists look like. I hope they see that scientists look like we do.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you also have your BSc degree.
Yeah.
But basically, I wouldn't say that I have personal challenges being a female scientist, or that I felt personal discrimination or anything, but just the general thing of, as a woman, we have to work so much harder to prove ourselves. And sometimes that can get you down, but I'm here to tell you that you should not let that get you down. You cannot worry about how other people perceive you or what they think of you. You just have to continue like the way you need to go forward in order to achieve your goals. So personally, it's that thing of, if you have a female leader and she's like, she's to the T, she tells you what you need to do, then people will perceive her as bossy. If you have a male leader, of course, people will think he is powerful, a good leader, for instance. We're not hating on men. Let's make it very clear. It is just that is what we struggle with. As females, we have to work harder to prove ourselves, to prove that we, are capable, that we are worthy. So I would say that is the thing I struggle with the most. But I have learned, you do not let it get to you. You actually should not worry at all what other people think of you. You should just do the best that you can do.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. I think sometimes the best thing you can do is focus on what you want to achieve and don't let any
Yes.
other factors come into play, because then it distracts you from your goal.
It will.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
You cannot let anything else come in and let you have doubt in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. That should be our motto. Let's believe in ourselves, no matter what anyone else says.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, definitely. I have a question.
Yes.
Let me just read the question quickly. So this would be related to the Sunkoi and the science kits and outreach part. So how do the kids get involved in that? Is there a system for them to apply? So basically, how do you go about choosing these different schools? Because you said you don't do all the schools for Sunkoi, but how do you go about selecting the specific schools?
So when I started this project, it was because I met with school teachers in the Stellenbosch area, of course, but the disadvantaged schools who don't have the lab space or the resources. And so we started with 3 schools actually who come every year, and then we extended it to 5 schools to include some schools from Khayelitsha and from the Cape Flats, of course. And this is when I realized that as much as I would want to, we do this on a weekend. We can't do it during the week because the kids must go to school. So we have to do it on a weekend. So this is how we spend our Saturdays, right? Unfortunately, we can't spend every Saturday in the lab because our technical officers still have to prepare the lab for our university practicals. And this is when I realized that we need to make a bigger plan to get to more schools, to more teachers, to more students. And this is what we do through our teachers' workshops. So actually, if your child does physical sciences in the Cape Winelands area or in the Metro South area, then your children would be exposed to our practicals and our kits, for instance. There's nothing about being selective, etc., etc. It's just that we have a certain capacity, so we chose the few schools which are closer to us because the program pays for everything. We pay for the transport to get the students from the schools to the university. We also pay for catering because if the students are there all day, we can't let them be, hungry or be on an empty stomach because it's fumes, it's chemicals. So obviously we have to make a plan with regards to that. The nice thing is, which we haven't mentioned actually, is that other universities have approached me about this model. And Nelson Mandela University, as well as University of Pretoria, they were very strongly motivated to do the same at their universities. So I've trained them, we've signed a licensing agreement, and this program is running at UP as well as NMU. So now the schools in those areas can also benefit from this program. So any universities that want to get involved, they can contact me.
That's amazing. So there's a potential of this Sunkoi project now going national, where it's available throughout all the different provinces, because obviously, like you said, you are limited in capacity and time and so forth, so you can only do it for specific schools or a certain amount of schools at a specific time. So now if other universities get involved, then it opens up the door for it to be a national thing.
Yes, it's kind of already. I mean, it's up there in Pretoria. And so whichever other universities want to get involved, they will just have to complete the training. I provide all the materials because it's standardized. All the matriculants in South Africa need to do the same practicals. So, it will be easier if, we give all the materials, we do the training, and we actually fly down and help, those people set up. So that they can continue. It's been now 2 years in Pretoria and 1 year at NMU.
With your interactions with children around the country, what advice will you give to parents when it comes to motivating their kids to pursue science?
Thank you for that question. A very problem that we actually have, that we are fighting, is that students get to grade 10 and they are afraid to choose physical sciences as a subject, especially if you look at your more disadvantaged schools. They think it is the most difficult thing to do, and the problem that I have with that is if you don't have physical sciences and mathematics, not math literacy, as subjects, then your career prospects just like narrow so much. There's so many things that you couldn't do. I mean, where I'm coming from, I'm sure it's probably difficult for people to believe that I've gone on to get 4 degrees in chemistry, to have a PhD, to lecture chemistry to medical students, to be a researcher in nanotechnology. So if I could do it, why can't everyone else? You should please motivate your kids from a young age. Try to encourage them and tell them there's nothing of you are not capable. There is no such thing. You are capable. You expose them to science. You expose them to things that will make them interested in science, and you keep on, motivating them to do that. Because irrespective of what they want to do later on in life or what they choose as a career, at least if they have mathematics and physical sciences, their world is open. They can be anything they want to be. That's what we want.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's that whole thing of it starts small, just by simply showing your kids that, look, as I'm cooking this is a form of chemistry, or as I'm just frying these eggs, this is a science thing, because I don't put the whole bottle in, but I pour a little bit of oil and I wait for it to get to a certain type of heat before I put in the egg to make sure it cooks right. Small things like that. I mean, the baking is so scientific.
Yes. You can teach them. When I was younger, I know I asked so many questions, and luckily my parents were patient and they answered all my questions. And some of us, if we have kids that ask too many questions, we're like, oh, I'm so stressed, please not now, not today, give me some time. Don't do that. Try to answer their questions. If you don't have the answer, try to Google it, because that is actually very important, because you are teaching them. Somehow I had that in me since I was very young, to know that I can be anything I want to be. There was never an idea of, oh no, I cannot be a doctor or I can't be a lawyer. The way my parents were with me, I always knew I could actually be anything I want to be, irrespective of growing up on the Cape Flats, in the middle of gangsterism and drugs and very hectic. Yes, I just always believe that, and that's thanks to the motivation from my parents. My niece, she's 9 years old. I'm teaching her about the periodic table. It's the funniest thing ever, but she can tell you what is the periodic table. She can explain that everything on earth is made up of elements on the periodic table. It's so important for them to understand that. So, that's how we start, small things.
Yeah.
So you keep your child motivated.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that, because I think one of the prerequisite to be a scientist is literally that element of curiosity and always wanting to ask questions, always asking why, or what is that, or why is this like this? Because if you're not curious about anything, then you wouldn't want to find out about anything, and science will be boring for you, because there's no element of discovery, and that's what science is about. It's about discovering new things, about asking questions, about being curious. And if you're not, then it's just like, then it doesn't happen. So obviously, since you're a lecturer, that's why it's going to undergrad level now. But it says in undergraduate level, what are some of the common mistakes students make that hinder their progress as science students?
Oh, yes. Oh, lovely. Let's talk about that. This is the thing, at high school level, you your teachers are kind of pushing you. If you are late to class, you'll be in trouble. If you don't do your homework, you'll be in trouble. You know, the teachers are there kind of holding your hand. Fast forward to university, it's good times. As your lecturer, there's 200 to 400 students in a class. We are not going to know if you didn't come to class. We are not going to, even if we know you didn't come to class, we're not going to go run after you and ask, but why didn't you come to class? But now your problem will come in when you have to write your test, when you have to write your exam, and you will feel the consequences of not being responsible for your own learning. So I think that is the biggest mistake that university students or undergrad students make. It's like suddenly you have all this freedom and no one is going to follow up on you. No one is going to tell you, you have to go to class. If you weren't there, where were you? You have to be responsible for your own learning. And if you are not, you are going to fail your module. So it is something that some students learn too late, but I think, you know, luckily we give them some leeway. Luckily we give them tests very early on and they will realize, look, I have to really step it up and be responsible and, you know, focus.
Next question. How do we break the fixation of most good science students wanting to become medical doctors instead of pursuing other science careers?
So, very good question. Again, I keep saying this. Also, you should know there are no bad questions. All questions are good. It's at least what I tell all my students. Okay, make a personal example of this question. I wanted to be a medical doctor. Remember, I'm going to a school where we don't have chemistry labs. I'm not exposed. I'm not even realizing what chemistry is, to be honest with you. And I wanted to be a medical doctor because I wanted to make cures. I wanted to be the person who makes a cure, who gets a cure for cancer, for instance. And in my mind, I was under the impression that medical doctors did that. Some of them do work on it, but that's with their further degrees. Of course, your first degree medical doctors don't actually do that. And this I only discovered once I got to university and I realized it's actually a chemical scientist, a researcher who actually works on things like that, who actually makes cures. So the best thing I can do is always I would ask a student, but what do you want to do? Is it that you want to do research, that you want to, as I told you, we're working on TB, we're working on cancer, we're working on blood clotting. It is exciting stuff. It's so exciting. I love being in the lab. Sometimes when people talk about, you know, don't think if you're a scientist, that you'll be in the lab all day. I'm thinking, what are you saying? I love being in the lab. If I could be in the lab all day, I would. But now I have students who are in the lab on my behalf because I have to do other things like lecturing, etc., etc. And that's lovely to be in the lab. But basically, you have to ask them, is it that you want to help people? You want to, you know, diagnose what they have? You want to, you know, give them medication, etc., etc.? Or is it that you want to do actual like research and work towards, you know, finding solutions or cures for certain diseases? It all depends on what they want to do. There's no right or wrong here. If a person wants to be a medical doctor, they must be a medical doctor. We must just find out they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Also, in terms of the whole job market, right? Let's have an honest conversation here. In terms of science, yes. If I study a science degree or I do something in science, what are the odds of me getting a job? Honestly,
it depends on what you study and how far you study. Honestly, if you're doing your BSc, we will always advise you to at least do your honors as well, so that you're a little bit more specialized in your field. And then, for instance, if you have an honors in chemistry, You can go work in industry. You can go work in pharmaceutical companies, checking the quality control, etc., etc. If you want to do research, like I had to choose between industry and academia when I got my PhD. Industry would be I go and work at any of our, chemical companies, for instance, the petrochemical companies or the pharmaceutical companies in SA. But it would mean that whatever I come up with or whatever I created belongs to the company. It's not my IP. And also I would have to do the research that they need me to do. If our focus is on cleaner fuel, I have to go and make cleaner fuel. So I chose to be an academic because I want to do my own research. I want to focus on what I want to focus on. And of course, I want to win the Nobel Prize. If it comes.
We see you.
So it depends on what you want. Do you want to do a BSc and an honors so that you can get a nice pharmaceutical job, which you can get afterwards? There's many of those. Do you want to be more specialized in your field? There's different types of science. There's different types of chemistry even. But we've got a little saying that goes, chemistry gives you options. It is really true because, for instance, you can study to be a patent lawyer and you have a BSc in chemistry and you will have that knowledge of chemistry when you're busy with these contracts, for instance. You can be a forensic scientist, for instance. There's more with your BSc and your honors. If you want to do research because you're interested in research, you want to be Elon Musk, you want to, dream bigger, then you go for your master's or your PhD. I'm always telling my students, you can ask them, if you struggled all the way to complete your master's, it will be a shame if you don't continue and just finish your PhD, because it's just like, it's difficult, it's hard work, but it will be an extra 3 years for you to be, a doctor and to be a specialist in your field. So it depends. And I always try and advise students and say, before you choose who you want to do your master's or PhD with, go and research those students who finish degrees in those areas. Where are they working? Are they working, for instance? I will say, I think in South Africa, we obviously need to create more job opportunities. We want more educated, employees. We need to actually create more job opportunities. But never will I say, don't study because you will be overqualified. No.
Oh.
You can start your own company. By the way, that is something we are looking into actually offering a course so that, if you're a scientist, you know how to make certain products. Why can you not start your own company? That's also a possibility.
Yeah. No, definitely. I agree with that. Turning research into businesses. I mean, the past couple of weeks, we've had scientists on here who we've been talking to who are actually running their own businesses that stem from their science passions or their science research, and now they are business people, they're entrepreneurs. So it's definitely a possibility. So yeah, thank you for that. And last words, like final message for, let's go for the kids. Let's go for the learners who are in school right now, who are thinking, do I want to do science or do I not want to do science? That little bit of words of encouragement, or words of motivation, or words of wisdom. Right? What can you tell them so that they just look at science and be like, hey, it's an option?
I would want to say to the parents, first of all, keep motivating your children. Please never tell your child, no, don't think of studying that you're not good enough, because you don't know whether your child is good enough or not. And I tend to believe that everyone is capable if they put their minds to it. So that is the first thing I would say. And to the kids, I would say, as we were growing up, none of us knew immediately for sure what we wanted to do. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a hairdresser. I wanted to be a designer. I wanted to be a medical doctor. We change our minds, and I'm talking about not just primary school. You get to high school, you think this is what I want to do. You pick up interests along the way. So to cover yourself, I would say choose physical sciences and mathematics so that you have the option of following any career which you eventually set your heart on. That would be my advice to, our future, our kids of today. I would also want to tell them to please, irrespective of whether you don't have a support system or whether you don't have the resources or whether you're struggling where you are right now, please remember that if you can believe it, you can achieve it. So don't stop believing in yourself, work hard, and you will get to where you want to be.
Wow. I don't think I need to say anything else after that. I really don't. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for doing this. I found this to be a very informative conversation, and I can see the difference that you're making. You really are a woman in science who's making a difference, and we see that and we thank you for that. And I hope that everybody who's watching sees that and thinks to themselves, what can I do? Because everybody can do something. It doesn't have to be big.
Yes.
Everybody can do something.
The other thing I want to say, it takes nothing to be kind to someone. So that costs you literally nothing. So at least if you can do that, you don't know what difference you could possibly make.
Yeah. So thank you so much to everybody for watching, and thank you, Rehana, for being here. And we'll see everybody next week with a different scientist or a different woman who's making a difference. So thank you so much and have a good day further.